Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Obviously I watched all three parts, but the third part of the Tesla owner Silicon Valley interview with Elon had some real gems, so I wanted to discuss them. In fact, this was a really great interview. Now, I'm sure you've likely all watched it too, so I'm not here just to repeat what he said, but rather go into depth and analyse what it all means for Tesla. In reality, I think what I really try and do most when Elon's talking about things, especially when it's more on the cusp in a more casual, relaxed environment, I think it's important to really try and understand what are his overall objectives here. What is he actually saying? And what path does it look like he will best achieve that objective? It's from there I like to try and piece together as much of the Tesla roadmap as possible, to make sure it aligns with Elon's overall mission, which I feel I have a good grasp on at this stage. Alright, let's begin. I'm not going to go through it all, just the highlights of what we can extract more information from. Of course, there is the part of the interview where I'm sure everyone's heard of, where Elon says the factories are losing an insane amount of money. But I was going to leave that for another video and see if we could try and calculate some idea of just how insane amount they are indeed losing. In fact, Elon appears very frustrated with the progress of the factory. He goes on to say that they had challenges with the 4680 and structural battery pack ramps, which we also noticed too. He said that they had challenges, implying that they are hopefully rectified now. Elon's frustration doesn't stop there though, as the Texas factory also has the ability to manufacture Model Ys with 2170 cells, but all the tooling equipment for that has been stuck in ports in China. This means the 4680 ramp has been so bad that they're having to resort to 2170 cells for this factory. The tooling equipment should hopefully turn up soon, and Tesla will end up making 2170 Model Ys in the factory. Presumably the highest margin performance versions, like Berlin, isn't really what we wanted to hear from Austin, what with how excited we are about these 4680 cells and this new Model Y. Although the 4680s are not going well, in the past I have said that this product is so amazing and important that even if it takes another 2 years for it to get ramped up, then it's more than worth the wait. The more I get my head around this cell, the more I appreciate it. It's simply outstanding. And Elon does go on to say that the issues will be sorted quickly. If Elon was more worried about the 4680 line, then we might be expecting him to sleep on the factory floor. He isn't. He knows it's in very capable hands and seems confident they'll get there. Elon says he focuses his mind much more on solving FSD when it comes to Tesla, implying perhaps if it was more urgent, then Elon would also be focused on it more. A lot of my trading strategy is based on Tesla hitting volume production with the 4680s sometime in the next 2 years. I feel like I've allowed enough time for that to occur. My point is, when it does happen, it'll be worth the wait, hence why I'm betting on it occurring over the next 2 years. Elon goes on to say that it will take more effort to get the production to high volume than it was to build the factory. He said more effort this time, but in the past he has said it would take longer, which I think is what he meant to imply. In other words, if the factory took about 18 months or so to build, we won't see it at high volume production for perhaps 2 years. Elon is saying high volume production though. Although we don't know entirely how high, what we are hearing is that Tesla's Shanghai Model Y factory is perhaps capable of doing 2,000 vehicles a day, or about 720,000 a year after the line upgrade in July. We've heard rumours of the cars coming out even faster than that too. Equally, we aren't sure of how much downtime that includes either. Finding out production numbers in August is going to be a big tell as to what is happening in Shanghai, but there's still a little wait. But this is an old factory now with old manufacturing techniques with hundreds of extra robots. The Shanghai Model Y factory is actually smaller than Texas factory too, but Elon claims the Model Y in Texas will only have around 520,000 capacity, one every 45 seconds with 75% uptime, the same as claimed for Berlin. But hang on, it's taken 18 months for Model Y Shanghai to get to 720,000 a year run rate. Elon says ramping up takes longer than building. Texas took 18 months to build, therefore ramping up for Texas takes more than 18 months, e.g. 24 months. So just to reiterate, according to Elon, Texas would take 24 months to reach 520,000 a year run rate for Model Y, yet we saw Shanghai take 18 months to reach 720,000 a year run rate. So do we really think it is likely that Texas will be slower and require more floor space to manufacture fewer cars than Shanghai? Admittedly, like I said, we aren't sure how much downtime we're factoring into Shanghai, but even if we took 75% uptime again, then we're at 540,000 units. It is still taking that much longer for Texas to supposedly ramp up. But we've also heard Elon say that he expects the new manufacturing processes to ramp up faster, despite a few initial hurdles, which should be expected as it is a much simpler process, simpler for production, more complex to set up. My point is, I really would expect the capacity to be a lot higher than Shanghai in Texas, eventually when 4680 and structural packs are ramped up. Elon goes on to say that getting Austin and Berlin functional and Shanghai back in the saddle are overwhelmingly Tesla's concerns, and nothing else matters. Great, I think we all feel exactly the same way. Tesla have bet the future of this company on the success of the 4680 cell. That's what is required for the stock to enter the levels we hope, hence why I talk about these cells so much. Elon gets asked if he'll ever make a Model 3 Plaid. This might sound like just some general consumer question, but it's a great question to try and understand how much Tesla really wants to meet consumers' desires. Obviously a Model 3 Plaid would be cool, and Tesla could make some kind of version, even if it's not as quick as the Model S. But this would be at an opportunity cost of Tesla doing more in the way of the actual mission. Elon goes on to say that they are trying to reduce complexity, and a Model 3 Plaid would add to complexity. Elon even says the only reason they even keep the S and X is for sentimental reasons, as they are massively complex vehicles. And this is something I try and explain. Tesla isn't here for the consumer. They have over-delivered and under-promised more than enough to make consumers happy. Tesla do not need to meet every single whim. They will go mainstream, leave other markets and niches to be filled in by competitors. And Elon explains how the S and X are small in sales anyway, and while saying this, he comes out with the Model Y sales expectations out of the blue. In the past, I think all we've ever heard was that the Model Y will be the biggest selling vehicle. With that, we're able to look up the current largest selling model, the Toyota Corolla. Well, Elon says the Model Y will beat that. The Corolla has had an annual global sales of close to 2 million. Therefore, we might have thought before that sales could be that high. I've said in the past that Elon said they will be more than the Corolla, and if you look at the factories, it's probably closer to 4 million. Verbatim, Elon said, I think 3 and Y could probably do 3 or 4 million. Now, I assume he means collectively, but still, as far as I can recall, this is still the first time Elon has actually said how many sales he thinks these models can eventually reach, which is a big deal. 4 million a year is obviously 1 million a quarter. Without FSD, we've done numbers that will take us to $3,000 stock price with that number of sales. Also, you might guess that the Cybertruck could be another million too, and possibly produce twice as much operating income than the Y or 3. Yes, so much profit coming Tesla's way, as soon as they can eventually ramp up their production. Elon is asked how we can help, and he says to shoot down FUD. Great, I've been doing my part then. He then talks about how they could get into advertising and how that could reduce FUD. We've discussed this in the past as well, as to why Tesla gets hammered, because it's good to look after your customers. One of CNBC's customers, for example, is GM. GM is a happier customer and spends more when there are negative articles about their threats and competition, i.e. Tesla. Anyway, as Tesla investors, this is a matter we are all too familiar with. Elon goes on to say that all these articles trashing Tesla have somewhat managed to get the name out there in the public eye. No such thing as bad publicity, as they say. Bottom line, though, is that Tesla doesn't need any more demand, so an investment in advertising would only make waiting lists longer and reduce profits. There was still lots more to discuss, and we'll talk about that later. But from all of this, what I am inferring, though, is that the 4680s will be alright. They are happening, they are getting there, it's just taking some time. I know it's disappointing, the progress isn't as fast as we hoped, and it is as important as you think. Austin is going to suffer for a while, but hopefully subsidised somewhat with some 2170s on the line. The important thing is, though, that there are lots of signs this will be rectified. It would perhaps be nice to have a more clear situation analysis. Anyway, earnings call coming up soon, and shareholder meeting after that, where things should get clearer. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.